Hello again, everybody. And it says we are live. Again, we're dealing with the lag. So let me just make sure that everything is properly working. And it looks like it is. Let's just check. Hello again. All right. All right. Hey, Devin. Good to see you here. So let me get so you guys can see Maggie and I. There we go.
Hey guys.
And someone is. All right. So someone's tapping on the window to get my attention. So, we come to you tonight with episode 4 of Wednesdays with Ra. And although we are still with Ra today, this is a little bit different. We are calling this one Reinstating the Divine Feminine Template with the Lunar Eclipse. So Maggie and I have been very busy these last couple days. And so if we seem a little tired, it's because we've had a lot of stuff happening. But we are happy to be with you. And do you want to say anything, Maggie?
Temple and I both woke up very, very early this morning to do an eclipse ritual. So please forgive me that my brain is a little bit behind where the rest of me is. They really wanted us to come on tonight primarily to bring some codes to you guys. There is an aspect of the energy of the divine feminine that is being anchored back into Gaia at this point that has been missing for some time. And we are here tonight to channel that energy through for you so that you can anchor it into your energetic fields and blossom in these new and powerful ways of the divine feminine that have been lost for many thousands of years at this point.
Yeah, very well said. So tonight, I know a lot of people are talking about like what this blood moon is, what the eclipse is, and then we also had the flower moon. And we can just touch on that just a little bit. But again, what Maggie and I have been really focusing our work on and focusing our energies on is the divine feminine part of this eclipse that happened. And so just so we can all be on the same page about like what actually happened this morning. And for some of us, it was late last night. I know Maggie and I were up very, very early this morning. Like we didn't even go to bed for quite a while. So, so the first thing with the eclipse, the reason it was called the blood moon eclipse is because this can only happen when you have a specific lineup of the Earth, the moon, and the sun. And the lineup needs to be that the Earth is between the sun and moon. So if the Earth's here, you have the moon and the sun, and one on each side. And that's what gives the blood moon. And so that's why it's not something that happens all the time, because everything has to line up. And this was a really important eclipse just because we had so many happenings going on all at once. It wasn't just the eclipse. It wasn't just the blood moon. We also had to add the flower moon on there. And so what the flower moon means, just to be very simple about it, it means that the flower moon is that it was 9 hours before it became fully, what's the word I want to use? Illuminated. The moon reached the closest point to Earth. So we had all these amazing occurrences, all these amazing like celestial things that lined up in this one eclipse. And that's very powerful in and of itself. As you know, the moon it does. The moon controls like the ocean tides, and the water ties in with the moon, and the moon is feminine. I'm sure you guys know this, but this is kind of like setting up how we're getting to the divine feminine here. So the moon is feminine, the sun is masculine. And I remember Ramses telling me once that as far as like pharaohs ruling in Egypt, the pharaoh, who was the sun, ruled during the day, and the queen, or the pharaoh's wife, who was associated with the moon, ruled at night. And so there was always a balance there. And so when we think the moon, we really need to think of it as like a feminine, from a feminine perspective. Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, you said that beautifully, and you are much more of an expert on the moon than me. I think that was very well said.
Okay. And so one of the interesting things that we look at when we think about like the history of the water and the tides and how um, uh, maps were made by the stars and the moon and how they knew, you know, where to sail with the tides coming in and out. When we look at the water is also. Do you want to talk about the water? Because you're the water gal, or do you want me to talk about it?
Why don't you start out with what you have to say about it, and then I can go off of that because I'm very watery, but I have a hard time because the water body is so emotional and so feeling. I have a hard time putting words to it, so maybe I can go off of your.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to come at this from a historical perspective. So when we think about like the Druids or the Celts, we don't know tons of stuff about the Druids, but there's a lot of cultures that saw the water as not only an important divine thing. Many cultures gave the water goddesses, water gods, um, but they also saw the water as being able to, because it was flowing and it was able to reflect and refract things. When you would look into it, you could see a picture like a mirror of yourself. And so it was a very symbolic um, element. It was a very symbolic element to a lot of these clans, a lot of these cultures. And one of the specific things that a lot of cultures associate the water with is a portal to other worlds, whether it's the underworld or a different type of world or a different dimension. They always associate it with being able to access other worlds. And so when we think of the water as not only being an element and being kind of pulled by the feminine energy of the moon, we think about it as a very powerful element that can take us to different realms too, if we know how to properly use the moon and use the moon reflecting off the water in order to do this. So I think that's all I have to say about like historical contexts for now. I'm gonna turn it to you, Maggie.
Thank you for going first. That was beautiful. As you were speaking, I got a huge download. I haven't received this information before, and we haven't channeled about it together on this, but what they're showing me is that the moon represents the emotional body, and the tides and the waters are controlled by the moon. And as humans, and everything on earth runs on water, you know, the plant life, the animal life, they none of them can be sustained without water. And that really is where our power and our intuition lies. You know, they say that the moon is where the intuition, where the feeling is. What they're showing me right now is that the body of our intuition lives within the water of our physical bodies, and the moon gives us feelings, intuitions, you know, intuition. I can't think of a better word right now. Just the beyond the five senses, you know, our six senses, by affecting the water within us. And the water within us is connected to all of the other places of water on the world, the water in the grass, the water in the trees, the water in the animals around us. So we can communicate with all of these things, and we are tapped in through all of these things through our connection in the water within us and the water within all things. And this is all controlled or affected by the moon. It's kind of what has the puppet strings and everything. So I'm not getting this download very completely yet, but this is something that is very strongly affecting the water element of the body, putting us in touch with this truer, deeper nature of our intuition, which is connected with the planet at large, which is connected with all these different collectives which inhabit the earth. And this is what they're giving back to us right now, this connection. And the basis of it is the water element. This is what is being strengthened in us right now. Does that make sense? Did I bring that through in a way that makes sense?
Yes, you did. I'm just going to add to it. So, for example, if we think about the moon as feminine energy, and we think about the women in your lives, or if you are a woman, you think about it in feminine energy. If the moon can affect the pull of the water, if everything is kind of related to what the moon is doing, where the moon is cycling, what is happening around the moon, if this is all related, you can kind of see how women, in a very pure way, can connect into these water energies. And so that's why historically, when you hear about the Delphi women or the gazing women, the women who would look into water and tell you what they would see, a lot of these things are based off vibration and connection with the water in your body and the water of whatever it is you're working with, whether it's just a glass of water. And this is why I always tell you guys, make sure to bless your water, because water is a living, breathing thing, even though we don't really think about it that way, but it is malleable in a way in which if we put our intentions into it, it will bounce that back. And if you guys want to look up more about this, we'll have to place links in below. I'll make a note. But there's a woman right now, and I don't know her name. She is doing amazing research on the blank of water. And I can't think of what it is, but what she does is she charges or does, like, she'll have, like, let's say a picture of a unicorn, and she'll lay her petri dish of water on top of this picture of this unicorn, and then she freezes it. And then she looks at it under a microscope, specific kind of microscope, but it actually, in the water crystals, as it freezes, it imprints that of a unicorn. And so she's done this with other ways too, where she's asked the water questions, and then she freezes it. And I think one of the questions she asked was, what is, to the little water in the dish, she said, what is your very first memory? And she asked the water, she put it in the freezer, and she pulled it out, and she looked under her magnifying glass. You guys know what I'm talking about. And it was a picture of, like, picture is hard to say. It was like crystallized, right? Because it was frozen. But the crystals were shaped in this shape of a being of some sort. I don't know. It was just very interesting. So I'll have to put her link below and you guys can check it out. But it gives a bit more tangibility, I think, to when we talk about the power of water and the power of this new energy that's coming into the planet, and the power of the divine feminine to use these elements, and these elements being connected to her. So I don't know if that made sense. Okay. Okay, so as last night, or as last Wednesday, when I said they're kind of going to tell us what to do as we go, it's again sort of the same thing. So what do you feel like you want to do now, Maggie, that we got the gist of everything down?
Does anyone have any questions about what we're talking about? I know that a lot of these concepts are very, what's the word? It's not theoretical, but kind
Obscure.
of nebulous concepts.
Yeah.
And a lot of this information we're receiving right now, we just received it recently. So these are things that we are learning about as we're talking about them, because these new understandings about these energies and these elements are coming into the planet at this time, and they're kind of shifting and morphing into something that is different from what they once were. They're being brought these new qualities. So if there's anything that specifically that is unclear that we're saying, please ask, and we will ask for the answer to be given in a more specific way. I also wanted to touch on just the people that Temple and I have been talking to lately. We've been channeling together a lot about these new divine feminine codes that are coming in. What's going on with this? What's exactly happening? We wanted to know more about the specifics of it. Everybody talks about the rising feminine and this energy of the feminine that may have been lost and that's coming back in this new time of ascension. But what does that really mean? I didn't know what that really meant. So we've had a lot of goddesses. The goddess Mut has come to speak to us. Sekhmet has been speaking to us. The Magdalene Collective has been speaking to us. This collective called the Sisterhood of the Benevolent Dragon, who was this secret sisterhood in Asia, has been talking to us. They worked with and were the original tamers of the dragons on this planet. There are others too. I can't recall the others right now.
Um, it's right on the tip of my tongue. Betsy Ross, of all people. So, for those of you who don't know Betsy Ross, she's the one who they say made the flag, although I don't think she necessarily like sewed the whole flag. She helped George Washington figure out the design of the flag, and she was instrumental in a lot of behind the scenes work with the revolution. And she came to talk to us about how women can be very strong. Women can have a very strong presence, a very strong energy, even though in certain societies, certain cultures, they were diminished in many ways, but they have this, say how that they can move energy in silence. And so she was giving examples where the women of her time would be able to move this energy of the masculine around them and help to maybe not influence, or help to co-create is probably a better word, help to co-create certain outcomes with just gentle discussions and gentle persuasions. And it's very interesting to me as a student of history to think about the different ways in which the divine feminine has had to survive. Seems very harsh, but had to mold herself and change in order to function in the modern world at her time. And so her prospect, no, what's the word? Her information that she gave us was very, very interesting. So
Yeah, she was great. And a lot of what's been coming through is about it's not it's not a weak energy, it is simply a quiet energy, and an energy that has been unspoken, that has been shrouded in a bit of darkness, just like the way that these women in older times, in many ways women in this time, have to learn how to display their power, express their power in different ways, in kind of these back channels, having the ear of men and being able to influence things in ways that are a little bit sneaky and creative, because they didn't have the access to power that men did as the patriarchy came to be what it is today. And that is sort of what we're being shown right now, is there is so much power there. There is so much power in the silence, in the things that women have done in the silence, in the energy of that itself, in this energy of quietness. So much energy lives there. There's so much potential, especially as women. There's so much that we can do with this, holding it. We can direct it. We can intention it in whatever ways that we want to. And it doesn't have to be these loud, decisive actions or words. There's so much to be done in this kind of quiet energy. I can't think of quite the right word for it. Do you have
yeah, I
better?
think it's still a little elusive for us to explain in a way in which our society doesn't view it negatively, because it's not about being silent. That's not it at all. It's about knowing who she is and having a connection with the earth and with the moon and Mother Gaia and the moon and the animals and the plants and the animals, that she can actually move energy and work with energy in a way in which is super powerful, that can get things done without, she's so powerful that she can get things done without having to raise her voice. I think that is, and I just got chills. So I think that is what we're working with. And like, why can I never remember her name? Betsy Ross. I keep wanting to say Sally Field, and I have no idea why I want to say Sally Field. Okay, so Betsy Ross was telling us that you actually have to, if you want to look up women who have how do you want to say this? If you want to look up women who have actually gotten notoriety for something, it's hard to do because even in like historical context, some women did have notoriety, but it's pushed down. It's not talked about. So in the next generations, it's easily forgotten. And so while it's very easy to type in, who did whatever on this day, and it's usually something that men did. But what she was trying to say is that the women were working right next to the men. So don't ever think that don't ever think that there wasn't like a woman there somewhere putting her 2 cents in gently in a way that hopefully the gentleman of the day would listen to. Not that they always did, but that there was many things that women did where the men got the credit. And so she wanted to bring attention to that dynamic as well. And so again, she kept, she kept saying, but things aren't always what they appear. Mm-hmm. And I think that is very much the understatement of the century with what we're learning the divine feminine actually is. In my opinion, from what I've learned so far, the divine feminine, from the way we currently see her to what she's actually supposed to be, is so much more powerful in a way that benefits everybody around her, standing strong in her knowing and connections with everything, where I don't think we really quite understand that yet. And I think as we move along, it'll become a little bit clearer.
I agree. I think that so much of what's coming up about the divine feminine and these new energies that are rising with her, people say that it's one thing and they believe that it's going to be one thing. But we have just had the feeling that nobody really understands what this power is yet. It's coming in and it's hitting all of us, but the scope of it and what it actually is, these energies, we don't have any understanding for yet because they have been gone, from the planet for so long. This is what's coming back, and they've been gone for such a long time that we forgot what it was like to feel them. We forgot what it was like to hold them. We forgot what it was like to live in a society that's balanced in them. And I think so much of what people get wrong about, feminine power and feminine expression, strong feminine expression, is that it has this masculine tinge. Women think that, well, I can do this just as good as a man. And of course you can do anything as good as a man, but you can also do things that are unique to you as a woman, that are more innate to the feminine nature. I mean, of course, there's women who are this is not a sexist thing. I'm not trying to say if you are more masculine leaning or more feminine leaning. I feel like I'm putting myself in a hole here, but I'm talking about the energy itself. And we think, or a lot of people say that to express this feminine energy strongly, we need to make our voices louder. We need to make our actions bigger. And this is how the strength gets out in these masculine actions. But in fact, the way that the feminine energy is in her strength is completely unique and completely different from these ways that we've had to learn to express our power. The truer ways, the more innate ways are rising within us now and rising on the planet now. I don't know if I explained that well.
You did. I'm going to follow this up with another historical thing. So when the women were petitioning or marching for the right to vote, a lot of the women who got put in jailed, instead of lashing out and being angry, a lot of these women held their power by refusing to eat. And now, they, on the other side, they took matters in their own hands where they stuck tubes down them and force fed them. But this is an example of how powerful it was just to remain quiet in that moment. Mm-hmm. And you're not losing any power. You're actually confusing them so much that they don't know what to do with you. And then they realize, we can't let them die, because if they die, that's going to look bad for us. So now what are we going to do? So I'm sure there's many other examples throughout history, but it's not about being silent and being weak. That's not it at all. And there are times where we need to stand up and come together in the same belief system to get things done. But the way in which we choose to do that, I think, is what we're talking about here versus, you know, on the scale of polarity, you can be very vocal and like, you can start fights and you can do whatever with guns, or you could all stand there in a march and just stand there and not say or do anything and just stand there and see what happens. You know what I mean? So like there's different ways of doing this, but that's kind of where we are so far. Now Val's got a question and it's a little bit off topic. So I don't know if you want to save the question for later or if you want to touch on it now.
Oh, this question.
Do you see it?
Yeah. Off topic a bit. They say that you have to go plant-based to ascend further and stop eating meat. Both animals and plants have consciousness. Why is it frowned upon to eat meat versus veggies? I'm sure that the beings who are going to come through could have an answer for this after they do the activating things that they want to do. But it's really interesting because Temple and I are very similar in energy and our vibrations are very similar all the time. And I'm vegan and she's an omnivore. So I think it really depends on your intention and how you interact with your food. Of course, you can eat things that are higher vibrational or lower vibrational than others. But I think ultimately we have the power because we have the intention with what we're ingesting. Like we can honor the food that we eat. Plants have consciousness, animals have consciousness. If you're eating a plant, I know that vegans and meat eaters have this debate all the time. And, you know, I've had this debate with many people and I don't debate with people about it anymore. Everything has a consciousness. So every time you're eating something, you're taking a consciousness out. And I just think that the important thing is that we honor what nourishes us, we honor that. And I don't really have any more commentary about it. That's just my opinion. I don't know if that answers the question at all.
And I can get my opinion as well. I would totally agree with Maggie. I think it's more about listening to you, listening to yourself. What do you want to eat? Eat what you want to eat. And then the question then becomes, you know, just being conscious of if you want to eat meat, just maybe being conscious of like where it comes from or being, you know what I mean? Being a little more conscious about how the animals are treated. Although like I don't know. It's a very interesting topic. It's something that I don't really get involved too much in because I've been a meat eater my whole life, and those people who are on the planet who have a little bit more I was going to say dragon for some reptilian DNA, dragon DNA. Those tend to need more meat in their system, and it's not about right or wrong. It's about using, you know, if your body's a temple, if you're hungry for meat, eat meat. But also, if you're that far already in your consciousness, you're gonna know that you're not just gonna go to McDonald's and grab a burger, right? So like, it's just seeing where you are on the scope of things. And sometimes do we have to grab burgers at McDonald's? Yeah, sometimes we do. You know, for a while I was on the road a lot, and sometimes you do. But we are having a lot of other choices now available as well. So I think both sides are just fine, and whatever side you choose to be on, as long as you accept that others maybe have another opinion, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. I think that's what I have to say on that. So we do have some more questions coming in. I hope that helps, Val. I know like people want specific answers, but if I let me just break your question apart for just a second. When you talk about ascending, I think that is one of those catch things that they want you to fall into a box of. If you believe you can't ascend because you are eating meat, guess what? You're not going to be able to continue your process. Now, does that mean you're going to ascend in this life, like becoming all light and just beaming up off the planet? Chances are no. Like, let's be realistic here. The like Tibetan, the Buddhas and the Tibetan monks, like they work their whole lives to get to a point where they can kind of be in meditation and like go out of body. And we as living normal people, we're working to better ourselves, to better our understanding of how the world works, to better our understanding of the energies, and to better our understanding of what's going on outside the world versus living in this teeny tiny box of what they tell us to do. And so please do not believe that you're not going to ascend because you feel like you need to eat meat. I think that is some of this false light that is shed on the planet. I think sometimes in the beginning, when this information comes in, it's done in a very, people can twist it very quickly to make it something it's not, but make it so dramatic that it catches your attention. So if they feel that the point is really important, they can just twist it a little bit. And so, please don't fall into that. I think as you guys follow the path of you, learning about you, you'll recognize those things when they come up. When people say, well, you can't, if you do this, then you're not going to do this. If you do this, you're not going to do this. I do eat a lot of meat, and there's some days I don't. I also eat a lot of blueberries. I can eat packs and packs of blueberries. Like, I can go through 3 giant things of blueberries a week. So, it's all in what your body needs and what you feel your body needs. So
I agree. And I would just like to add, if you feel like, for me personally, I stopped eating meat because, well, for many reasons, but as I weaned myself off of meat, my body reacted nicely. Like, I had more energy. And as I have been going down my personal path of ascension, I've gone the much more vegetal route because my body finds that it has more energy if I'm eating more raw foods, if I'm eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, really cutting back on other things. But that's not to say that I forced myself to do this because someone told me that I wouldn't ascend otherwise. It's because as I'm ascending, my body is saying, maybe not so much meat, you feel really heavy when you're eating it, or this kind of grosses me out right now, I'm not going to eat it. What am I thinking about this? I think it's going to make me feel good right now. Listen to your body. For some people, maybe you'll need more meat. Maybe you'll need more vegetables. Maybe you'll need more this. Maybe you'll need more of that. Our DNA is all so different. We all come from so many different places. We're bringing so many different species into our bodies here who eat all these different things. It's really going to be different from person to person. So to go off of what Temple says, my best thing is to follow your intuition. Don't do something because someone says that's what you have to do to ascend. As you're ascending, follow your body, follow your intuition, listen to your guide. What's feeling good? What's making you feel lighter? What's making you feel better? That's the most important thing.
exactly. And along with like feeling lighter, feeling better, when you start to eat cleaner, I think most people generally will find that they have more energy and that they feel better. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't eat clean meat. That's processed in a better way. Also, I believe that all beings on this planet, whether they are, it's just my personal opinion, okay? So whether they are plants or, microorganism or animals or whatever, I feel like everybody kind of has their own contracts in a way somehow. And so they agree to be here for the purposes that they're here. So that is that. I hope that helps, Val. I hope this helps you make a better understanding of maybe how you're interpreting this, because she said that she read some info in a book and just wasn't sure how she felt about it. So we do have, hi lady. Okay, Aurora's got some really great questions. She says, could you talk about the fall of the divine feminine? Who was she, the original Gaia Sophia, who fell from Polaroma? Or was she an Orion queen? Was she a Syrian queen?
Who was she, the original?
Yeah, who is the original?
The original
The original
mother?
divine feminine.
In my understanding, the original divine feminine is the mother aspect of God, mother God. So this is this primordial energy that was here before any of creation was here. And she is the life force that sustains every feminine energy on every planet, in every galaxy, in every universe. But that's my understanding.
I would have to agree with that. I think in today's world, everybody focuses on Father God or like God or the great divine, however you want to call him. But what they don't realize is that, like with the whole yin yang thing, that Mother God should be there too. Mother God should be there too, because they both, even if they're made up of the same pieces of the same being, but they hold different energies. And if you just have one energy, it's very off balance and off kilter. And so you need the accommodating energy to balance it all. And so we have wonderful goddesses who came down holding the mother within them. And so I think this is something that our world doesn't quite understand. And while Maggie and I are learning about this, it's more about all of these women that you were talking about, and even more that we've learned about that don't get the credit that they're due, but they've all come in at one time or another to hold pieces of the Divine Mother Goddess, the divine feminine energy. And this happens throughout many cultures, but it's the same energy that's being held. It's just different names with different beings. And I would say, like, we have been kind of focusing recently a lot in Egypt, but this last week we were over in an ancient. It had to be like way before we can even comprehend ancient Asia, right?
Yes.
And we were even in like Samaria. We talked with the Magdalene Collective, and all of these collectives and beings talk about this energy as if they held the energy, but they never talk about it as theirs, because they always talk about it as the great divine feminine energy that they were blessed to hold, or they were blessed to keep, or that they were in charge of implementing on the planet. And so I think it's perfectly fine to see the divine feminine however you better see it embodied in whatever goddess or whatever group. I think that's perfectly fine. And as we go along, we'll probably have a better understanding. But at the top, at the beginning of the beginning, it's one energy, Mother God and Father God, and then Mother God comes in through all these different women.
Yes.
Throughout history.
Yes, and the goddesses who came down are often higher dimensional, so they can hold the energy more strongly. And human women hold it in a different way. It's all the similar energy from this source mother being held in vessels of beings like you and me, or gods or goddesses, aliens, whatever. But in down to brass tacks on this earth, we are held together, we are held in place by a balance of masculine and feminine. And what the feminine, I'm sorry, is missing right now, this divine feminine energy, has been expressed to us as a piece of coding within the feminine energy that holds all the feminine energies on this planet together, the energies of the grids, the energies of Gaia, the energy of the plant and animal world, the energies of the feminine collective. The divine feminine becomes whole when this piece of the code that was taken a long, long time ago comes back, and it's coming back now. It's being given back to us now.
So she is also wondering what happened to it. Like, let me see, where did I see that? She wants to know about the fall of the divine feminine. Do you want me to give like a teeny tiny bit of history from what we understand so far?
Yes, and this is very fascinating because we've actually learned a lot about this just this week that I've never heard these stories before.
Mm-hmm. So I'm sure there is a lot more to this, but this is what we can tell you that we were told. So in the beginning, there was an equal divine feminine, divine masculine energy on this planet. And they were very different because they were polar opposites, but they were also equal in, I don't know. See, I don't know how to quite explain this yet. Because you have one energy, and then you have the yin energy and the yang energy, and that comes together to make a complete circle. But because this planet has free will, what happened was the women who held this energy were very much in touch with the animals, the plants, the ones, maybe you can talk about the ones in Asia a little bit more, but they were able to actually talk to them. They were able to understand their languages. They were able to talk to the plants. They were able to talk to the animals. They were able to use the energy of Earth, use the energy of Gaia in a way in which was very powerful, but they would use it to co-create. They would use it to protect. They would use it to provide. They would use it to help their counterparts, the males. They would use it to help the counterparts. So they would use their energy. The males were supposed to use their energy, and together it was supposed to combine to balance out. Now, what happened was, because this is a free will planet, how do I want to say this? Because this was a free will planet, they cannot implement things from above. So, like, we could talk about the flood later, but you have to actually be on the ground to do things, and that's why you have like people like Zeus coming in and stuff like that. But when you're here, you are subject to the planet's vibration. You are subject to the free will of this planet. And what happens when other galactic groups started coming on the planet, they could twist the energy that was here, and they could make the males and the females who once lived in equal energy. They would take the males and they would, let's just say, for lack of better storytelling purposes, change the energy, whisper things in their ear, right? So now all of a sudden, instead of the males seeing the feminine as their divine counterpart and as a asset to making the energy work and being very powerful together, they saw the females as possessing something within which the males didn't have. And so eventually what happened is they captured these women. They captured these animals. They, especially the dragons, they captured them and they tortured them in a way in which they wanted to know where this energy came from. They wanted to have it. They wanted to possess it. They felt that it was theirs to possess. And so the women fought it off as long as possible. This divine feminine energy on this planet fought it off as long as possible. But there was a point within which it could not be fought off any longer. And so when that energy, when the last divine feminine was killed, or the last divine feminine, I guess killed is probably for her energy, the actual truth of the divine feminine left the planet. So this is so very complicated. I'm trying to like make it as simple as possible. And so what happened then was,
maybe we should channel this.
Do you want to channel it? We should maybe channel it because,
Yes,
okay.
because the women who experience this have explained it to us. And there are so many collectives of women and so many powerful women as individuals, so many goddesses, so many strong alien women who are on this planet and spread around the world who experience this. This is not a singular experience. This happened at roughly the same time all around the world with all of these powerful divine feminines, with all of these collectives. They picked up on this. They were all being used for this. And they all have a role in how the divine feminine rose and then was diminished. And the collectives and the people that we've been talking to have given us their perspective. But you have to understand that there are many, many perspectives on this because this happened to so many in so many different, unique ways. The story is so complicated.
Yeah. And I think the most important thing to remember throughout this is that there were moments in history where great strides were taken to either save or rebirth this true divine feminine energy. And all the women on this planet, even now, are connected. We're all connected, just like all the men are connected. And so when this went out, everybody, all the women were experiencing it at the same time. I think that's probably good if you want to, because I could stumble through it, but I think it probably would be more cohesive if you let
Yeah,
them.
I'll talk. There's a collective we've been talking to, or who's been talking through me. They call themselves the Sisterhood of the Benevolent Dragon, and a little bit of history about them. They are ancient Asian women. They first met the dragons. They called themselves dragon tamers, dragon whisperers. They learned how to speak to the dragons and learned how to integrate their energies with theirs. They use this very deep, intuitive, soft power of feminine gentleness and intuition to get these dragons to trust them, to work with them. And like this is kind of the crux of the feminine power, this soft gentleness in which you can work with all of these different beings, work with all these different species in a way that is not forced, or it's not no one is in servitude of someone else. It's this loving thing. They became like a family, and that is a bit of their history. They have been silent for many, many years, and they are coming up now to talk about their experiences. And
It's
I
more
will
than many years, right? It's like
eons like
eons.
mhm.
So
Yes, and then I'll talk a bit about their experience, and maybe you can channel some of the Egyptian women, and they can talk about what
sure.
happened and the safety measures that they took to keep us safe, and all that's happening with that. I won't spoil it.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that
Sounds like
okay?
a plan.
Okay. Sorry, one second. My door is open and I can hear my fiance talking very loudly.
So if you guys want to get in the energy too, feel free to put your feet flat on the floor, put your hands up, and then we can all kind of share the energy.
Okay. Sorry about that. Greetings, sisters and brothers. We are the Sisterhood of the Benevolent Dragon. We are making our voices heard for the first time in many years, many, many years, as you have expressed. We are here to speak about the energy of the divine feminine as we knew it, the energy which has been diminished and is so much smaller with you women now than it was in our time. As a collective, All of the women on your planet enjoyed a strength of femininity that is no longer even a whisper anymore upon your planet. And we are here to explain to you why. We were what you would call shamanesses. All of the early shamanistic practices of the world were done by women. And why? Because of the power of this original divine feminine essence. The original power of it was your connectedness to the Mother Gaia, to her elements, to her plants, to her beings, to her celestial nature, and by the celestial nature, to all other universes and galaxies around it. Through the element of the water within the body, the water within the feminine is different than the water of the masculine. Water is a feminine element. We learned to wield fire, to snap our fingers and create fire, to call the winds to our power, to calm the oceans. Because we were connected. We were so connected. The power of the feminine energy is not a power that is simply within you as an individual. It is the power which connects you to all things. This was the great power, and this is why it was taken. We will speak about our dragons. A long, long time ago, we met a group of dragons who had sought safe haven on your planet. They were warring in their planets, and in small peaceful places of our continent, they found a home where they could be at peace with their families. We came upon them. At first, we were afraid. They were afraid. We were protective. They were protective. But over time, they learn to trust us. We learn to see them as gentle in nature, underneath their great power, their great fire, a gentle nature, similar to the gentle nature that was within us, the gentle nature that connected us to the elements so that we could wield them, the gentle nature that connected us to the smallest of plants and animals, the gentle nature where we could speak to the plants and they would tell us how to heal with them. These gentle whispers that create a great power. This is the power of our energy. Thank you for listening and bringing it back at this time. We would like to thank you for allowing our voices to be heard. Back to the dragons. They had great wisdom. They had great power. This was at a time where there were other species upon the planet who were trying to harvest the energy of Gaia, the energy which gave us and her so much beauty and power. The dragon saw that our own energy was being harvested, that they would come for us in the future. The dragon saw this. And as we learned about them, we learned to speak to them. In many ways, the language of the dragons is one of the first languages of magic upon this world. It is a beautiful language. They taught us magic from other realms that meshed beautifully with the energies of Gaia. They taught us to protect ourselves, and in turn, we protected them and taught them Gaia's secrets and Gaia's beauty. They were so well suited to this planet. And we formed a beautiful relationship. We became a family. But as it was, as it was with so many groups like ours, who met so many elemental species, the fairies, the dwarves, the gnomes, the unicorns, all others. They were sniffed out, they were found. They saw the power that we had built together on love, on trust, on gentleness. And from that, the magic that blossomed, the seeming power that blossomed, and they wanted this power for themselves. They kidnapped our women, they stole our dragons, our family, and they did unspeakable things to them to try to find within their DNA codes the source of this power, not understanding that it is not simply a code, but something that we brought together, a connection. And so we had to flee. Those of us who remained fled to the caves, where we have remained ever since. We have become smaller. We have birthed new generations. Our group is small, but we have stayed here, knowing that this time would come, knowing that there must be a lineage of us alive on the earth at this time. So when this energy was right to come back, we could hold it once again in our bodies and bring it full circle to right what was wronged. I know that many of you are curious about what happened to our women, what happened to the dragons. They became unspeakable things. They were morphed and changed, genetically experimented on to become something so different from what they were, something so much darker, something that was a beast for power and power alone. They hoped that in doing these experiments, they could extract the power that they saw within us, the power that we built. But they missed the point. They created powerful beings, but they did not have the power, the same power that they were seeking. However, it was good enough for conquest. So here we have been in retreat, many groups like us in the same way, many elemental species, the fairies, the gnomes, the dwarves. This is why you do not see them in your dimension anymore. They have had to retreat into other dimensions, for they were harvested for this power, this energy, a power and energy that was uniquely shared in the essence of the divine feminine energy. And so the divine feminine energy went into hiding and was also taken away. The part of it that we saw, that those women around us saw, if taken, if used even more, if allowed to be brought down the timeline of thousands of years, would have ravished the planet. And so it was hidden instead. The decision was made to take from you, my sisters and daughters, to take this strongest essence and hide it away for your safety. But now you are rising, and now is the time where it is being given back to you. It is a blessed era in your history, and you are blessed to receive it. So many of you were alive in these times. So many of you were these women who stood strongly for your power and were overcome, were beaten, were abused. And you have come back to reclaim it for your sisters, for your daughters, for your husbands and sons as well. And in a general overview, this is what has happened, and this is what is happening now to right these things to bring them back into the proper balance. Are there any questions?
We shall see. I should have asked earlier, but I just asked now.
That
So
is
if you
all
would be
right.
okay to wait.
We are not so much here to answer questions, but to give this information. We will speak more in the future, but it is not our time to tell the whole story yet. However, you deserve to know the story as it was.
I don't see any questions. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. You are blessed, my sisters. Thank you all for your beautiful service. Thank you for allowing us to use our voices again. We love you and we are with you.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
So that is definitely a good portion. I don't know about a good portion, but it does do it justice, as far as wanting to know what happened to it. Is there more after this? Yes, there is a ton more after this. But as far as the earliest times, this is what we understand to be the earliest issues with the corrupting or the corruption of the real divine feminine energy.
Mhm.
Aurora says, "Thank you so much. That was amazing."
I'm glad. I'm glad that it was helpful. This collective of women, they have been silent for so many years. They have been withdrawn to these caves in these, faraway mountains, and they hold so much emotion that I know, because I feel it's difficult for them to talk about these things, to remember them, and it was such an honor for them to be able to share their story and to have people want to know what happened to them, because they've had to keep these things secret for so long to keep them safe. And they're saying, so if their their words weren't didn't do justice to their story, it's because that they haven't been able to use words in so long.
I remember the first time that they came through, it was so emotional for all of us because we felt that connection. They felt the connection. This was the first time that they felt that they were safe to speak about it. And so they almost, it was whispers at first almost until they kind
Mm-hmm.
of regained um, their voice, or I guess that would probably be a good way to put it. Aurora says, during the channeling, I saw that the corruption went back to at least Atlantis and how certain stargates were misused against humanity.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
yes, that is very true. Very true. And that's something we can maybe get into later at some point. I should say, I've been downloaded a lot of information about this throughout the years, and I've been keeping journals of it. So, um, I did ask if there was anybody who wanted to come through on my side. And I heard, I would like you to check though.
Oh,
I heard Nefertiti,
that's who I
but
thought it was.
that's who you thought, because I have not channeled her before. Um, is
Yeah,
that
he was right in the middle of it, and that's why I said it at the beginning. I'm like, maybe I'll channel them, and maybe you'll channel someone, because I had Nefertiti in my head with
did you?
you.
I don't know. I've never brought her through before, so we can see how it goes. So this is also another very interesting woman in history where many people don't quite understand her. Um, they don't understand the depths to her. They don't understand her I don't know. I should just leave it alone and I should just let her speak. All right. Good evening, my daughters. It is I, Nefertiti, and I am delighted to be able to come and speak about this topic because it is so dear to my heart. And we have toiled for so many eons in order to keep this part of the divine feminine safe. Although I am generally misunderstood in the human historical context, there are many reasons for this. And I'm not here today to give you a history lesson, but I am here to explain why there may be some distortion around how I am perceived, because it needed to be so. As we continue from the Sisterhood of the Dragons, I'm going to touch on the divine feminine as she was known in my time. Now, this is something that we had been aware of and tracking on your planet. This is something that we knew was in dire emergency states of either needing to be restored in some way or needing to be protected. And so, off planet, we made those decisions. But what we did for the whole feminine collective. What we did has not been really understood or even conceptualized because it has been a secret for so long. We saw the decline within the feminine energy of the divine templates encoding on your planet. And a choice had to be made. We saw the possible future timelines. And we knew that we had to act swiftly and act quickly. I had many daughters back in Egypt. and Amarna. And there was a reason for this. They too are part of the divine feminine, as all women are on this planet. They were the ones that volunteered to help me and the other women keep this sacred, divine peace safe. There came a point where the divine feminine had been so distorted and so overtaken and so combined in with the masculine energies that it no longer resembled the pure essence of what it once was. Now, that pure essence was still intact within the feminine collective, but it was not something that they could pull out or extract, because this coding is coded deep within certain DNA structures that are not on this planet in the sense of being visible or being able to be studied in the body. So try as they might, all they did with their DNA experiments was muddle what was once pure and destroy something that was a gift to this planet. And had we not taken action, it would have been wiped out completely. And while this is a free will planet, there are certain of those who do watch over this planet to try and keep the energies stable and see what is happening, because there are so many groups that have come to this planet to either exploit it or to find shelter or to start anew. But along with that comes seeing what one does not have and desiring what one does not understand. And by the time my timeline rolled around, the divine feminine was just a small sparkle of what she used to be. And so I was tasked with using my magic, that of the divine feminine herself, and of my being, and all that I am, to completely remove the template out of my daughter, resulting in the protection of it for the future, but also having to watch the whole collective of the divine feminine change as it rippled through the planet. Now, it is true that there are certain pockets that were not affected in the way in which most of the populations on the planet were. However, I did this out of love for the Divine Mother, for she needed protection. And this planet needed to see what happens when it is polarized. Because now, with that section gone, the Divine Feminine slowly forgot who she was. And what with the original essence and codes all connected her to. It was now leaning heavily on the masculine energies on this planet. And so you ask yourself, how could we have gotten to where we are? It started millennia ago with something that was desired, something that was not understood. The gravity of what would happen if it was gone or missing or destroyed or manipulated was not understood. And I'm sorry for all my sisters and all my children. It was a necessary development. And this eclipse, this blood moon, this flower moon, all of the alignments are very special. For it was the last day that the old constructs of the Divine Feminine and the Divine Masculine were left. It was the last day of the old. For this is now coming back to the planet. This is now going to be restored. The template was given back to this planet. And so what once was looked upon as a forgotten energy, a forgotten essence, a forgotten being, a forgotten part of who all of you are, will now have a chance to be restored. But it is not as simple as me telling you these things. There will be a lot more to come, as many of the divine collectives guide you daughters and sisters and mothers and grandmothers on this planet to restore what was once taken from you and what no longer is. This is why the eclipse was so important. This is the first time in many thousands and thousands and thousands of years your human brains cannot conceptualize this. This is the first time the old ideology of what it was to be The divine feminine is no longer my sisters, my mothers, my daughters, my beautiful collective. The Divine Mother and all of the goddesses, all of the grandmothers, all of the daughters have rejoiced as hope is restored, as love is restored, as connection is restored, as true understanding of what it means to be feminine is restored. This is all I have come to say at this time. I will not be taking questions tonight, but I will come back. And if you would like to discuss at that time, I will be more than happy to, but not tonight, not now. Hosatakana kolotuk, kwasatakana kalak, kokokolos kanakalak, kuskana kalak, kunok, insk, isk up at usk and at up, nek up usk at it and usk and at. Maskanat hapuskuto, Yashkata naskuto, matkonok kapt, Kiaskata tiashkuto. Hanaskala temiaskata, buskuto napiaskata leashkata natiakaskata, buskuto tatiatkatian tatiatatatiatatatialoskuto tiaskatatiatkana tatiakatatiakana tiataskatiatakotapiatukushkotokonokotkot. Iaskatana, iaskalatan. Mula la la yo lo lo lo. La la hi lo 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 lo. Malala skata halaleala. Ololia skala. Lala lia la la lo lo. Lola lo 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 lo. Lola lia lo lo lo. Nalalaska. Sing and dance. Once again, my children. And the connections of the moon, and the connections of the water, and the connections with your mother, and the connections with Gaia, and the connections of all living things.
Thank you, Mother.
Thank you, my daughters. Oh my gosh. Oh.
A beautiful temple. Channeled her beautifully.
Thank you.
I think she explained really well what happened, what was lost, and what it is coming back. And I'm kind of speechless.
I'm speechless too. I'm still in that coming out of channeling phase. She said there is more history to be told, but that she was going to leave it for the Magdalene Collective.
Oh. I imagine they'll have their time, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what Temple and I have been up all week doing. Is we were given this information in pieces over the last few weeks as we were trying to figure out this mystery of the divine feminine, what happened then, what's going on now. And with this eclipse that's happening today, that happened today, um, we have been preparing ourselves to receive these codes. They gave us this information so that we could know what is coming and be prepared to receive these codes back into our bodies, to share this information with you all as you prepare to receive them and receive them back into yourselves as well. And for me personally, it is such an honor to receive these things back and to be in communication with these women, with these collectives who fought so hard to preserve the dignity, the integrity of our energy, the purity of our energy. And what an honor to live in a time where we are women incarnated now, being trusted to receive it back and to spread this love back across the planet. So a new balance may be reached, a new new
A
what
new now.
yeah, new now,
A new now.
a new light, and it's so much attached to these codes being put back into the place where they were taken from. This is the so much the secret of secrets in so many societies, in so many places. It's all about these codes. This is what people were looking at for so long, were looking to use and abuse. So it was taken and now it can come back. And it's just, the more I think about it, it's just mind blowing to me that after all of this happening, we get to experience these things being reintegrated right now.
Yes, and I would like to just touch on the fact that my hand looks really weird. Huh. Um, I would like to touch on the fact that when we think about these collectives, like the Dragon Collective that spoke with Maggie, or spoke through Maggie, and the Magdalene Collective, and the Hathor Collective, and the Isis Collective, and all of these women. These were women who were given pieces to come here and hold on this planet so that things weren't completely wiped out. And when you think of like the priestesses, the priestesses in the various cultures, they were taught these divine feminine ways so it wouldn't die out. Now, as time progresses, teachings change, and that's where things can get a little muddy, because you start with the pure teaching, and as more and more of the feminine divine collective or the divine energies template gets removed and more of the masculine energy comes in, it's easy to see how teachings and things can change a little bit, because now when you think of what, I mean, as I guess as a historian, when you think of like all the different types of women groups there were throughout history, and you can see like what their main subject matter was, what they mainly dealt with, what they mainly taught. If you would line that all up in like a grand thesis, I'm sure you could see exactly what portions were changed and what portions were taken out. And part of this is I can never remember the name, the secret schools, the secret
Mystery schools?
mystery schools. Part of this is the secret mystery schools. And while a lot of us think that that's like a masculine thing, which it it definitely did turn into a masculine thing. There was definitely secret mystery schools for the feminine as well. It's just something that has been lost to history. And oh, remember we channeled about that? Didn't we channel about that? We asked if the information was written down, and they said that the information was written down. It was found and it was destroyed on purpose. Do you remember that?
I think you channeled that, yeah.
Oh, maybe I did channel that. Um, so
Yeah, it's so much information, and I hope that you listening, it's coming together in a way that, in the same way it helped us to put a lot of pieces together in our own lives and how things have been presented to us. You are seeing pieces for yourself come together too, and this is a very important day for this piece to be coming back to us right now. And that's the main reason they wanted us to go live tonight, is because
yeah.
we did a ceremony this morning to integrate these codes back into ourselves. We were guided through it, and we are called to bring you through a similar ceremony to reintegrate these codes into your energetic fields, your bodies as well, provided that that is something that you are open to and feel prepared for at this time. That is really our task and what we are called to do tonight. And it was important for us to give you some context to it.
Right, exactly. And we always want you to be able to feel comfortable asking us
Absolutely.
questions so you can better understand what's going on. So I think that's kind of where we are. In my understanding of it, this is quite the process. This is not something that is going to happen overnight. This is something that, in order to implement these codes, and this is not just a feminine thing, like the masculine can definitely take part in this as well. In fact, I almost encourage that, because I think then that shows that the masculine is willing to take a different look at what ideologies of his world that he just grew up with that maybe aren't serving the collective in the whole. And like that's what this whole moon, like if you go look on websites and stuff, that's what they say about this whole moon, where it's all about sweeping out the outdated belief systems, focusing on what you want out of life, placing non-judgment on what is happening around you, or how fast you're proceeding through this, calming your mind to hear your inner voice and to be able to feel with your heart. And so all of this is about, even at the face value, getting rid of the energetic systems that no longer serve us. That's like what the eclipse was about. I don't think the fuller idea was really understood by many, but it's not supposed to be until the time is right. So if you think about that, if you think about taking out what no longer serves you, bringing in the new, updating old belief systems, I mean, it makes sense when you think about everything that we were just telling you now about the history of the divine feminine codes.
Absolutely. And to speak to the idea of the masculine in all of this, in no way is this a girls' club kind of thing. Temple channeled, when she and I were doing some digging the other day, that the Y chromosome has been very affected by the removal of these codes as well. And as much as the feminine struggles, the masculine struggles equally, if not in a greater way, in many aspects, because of conditioning and how the masculine is taught to act and is conditioned to be and think about himself. And it's not nobody is unaffected by this. These energies of connectedness to Gaia, to the mother, they don't just affect daughters, they affect daughters and sons. So it's bringing back something for everyone. And if we're focused so much now on the women, it's because it was in many cases actual women who suffered these atrocities and were forced to make these difficult decisions or forced to hide. It was females who went through this, but the ripple effect on the male collective has been astounding, and it has been tragic as well. And I'm sure there will be another day, another Wednesday, where we bring through some masculines who can really get into that and get into their energy and how their energy is out of balance, because one energy affects the other and the other affects the one. It's not like any of these things exists in a vacuum. So I don't want anyone to feel like it's just girl power only over here. That's absolutely not the case. Yes, girl power, absolutely, but we're all in this together and we're all affected by these things, but our struggles are just very different in many different ways.
Right. And so by so if things are out of balance right now, if this is like the divine feminine because it's out of balance, and like this is the masculine because it's out of balance, working to balance the divine feminine will help balance the masculine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I'm not going to get into this, but it's very interesting in even just personal, well, just dealing in personal stuff, how they were showing me how this is going to, I'm thinking of stuff with like Ramses, right? Like showing me how this can happen if the feminine portions can get rebalanced. So too, it will automatically rebalance some of the masculine portions that were out of balance. And if you're still confused at like like the sun in my face, if you're still confused at like the basics of how to think of a divine feminine at its core basics, think about this. Historically, we talked about how the women were in touch with everything. They felt the energies of everything. They knew what plants would heal, right? They they let's just take the plants. Let's fast forward to the witchcraft trials, right? And like we now know that there's a possibility where it could be like a he said she said over like land dispute, but in certain areas it was women who they didn't want to be able to naturally heal, or they didn't want to be able to take all these things that were divinely, innately what the divine feminine is about, like using nature and healing and spreading love. And they took all these things and they just hung them all, they burned them all. I think I've talked about this before, where I had to live through a past experience where I wasn't able to wake up until I had completely burned and left my body. And it was very painful. I don't want to relive that again. And so you can even see this going on in like 15, 1600s, 1400s, things like that. So, all right. Do you want to check in with Ra? I'm sure he's hanging out. Can you check in with him and see if there's anything he would like to say, or if what we should do, what he would like us to do?
He doesn't want to speak. He says this is not his time to speak. This is the time for the mother. And as we bring through these codes, it will be the mother who brings them through. And he is here to support these energies as a masculine strength and a masculine balance. But it is not his place to speak tonight. He will be silent tonight.
Okay. Beautifully said. All right.
Okay. Let's do this.
Let me just shut the curtain. I'll be right back.
Okay. If those of you who are joining us just want to start out by just centering yourselves, taking a few deep breaths, really getting into your heart, breathing into your heart, emptying your mind, all of that stuff. And I'm not exactly sure how this is going to go. It goes differently every time. Everybody has different energies, and we're speaking to a group right now. So they're going to bring it through in the way that serves you all the best. And I would like to remind you that it is within your free will to accept or reject these energies and codes. It is by no means that you have to accept them right now. If you feel like you are not ready to, if it doesn't resonate with you, save it for later. You can come back to this at any time. Maybe you're more suited to someone else who's bringing through something similar. I just They're telling me it's important to remind you this is a big thing that you are accepting back right now, that you are bringing into your field. So please only do so if it resonates. I'm not trying to make it sound scary or anything like that, but just a reminder that you have free will over every situation in your life, including this one. Do you have anything to add, Temple?
I don't. I think that was well spoken.
Okay. Greeting, my dear children, my brothers, my sisters, in light, in connection, in love. I am the Divine Mother, Source Mother, Mother God. It does not matter how you call me. It is, you only must know my energy. I am here because this is a critical moment in your earth and human history. This is a time to rejoice. This is a time to release what does not serve you, what makes you unhappy, what binds you to things outside of yourself, which binds you to expectations outside of yourself, which binds you to systems which take from you. I call you today, my sisters, my brothers, my children, to bring your energy back to its center within you, the place where your creator lives, the place where your divine spark lives. Release the shackles of the other and come back to yourself in your divinity, in your divine connectedness. What I am bringing back to you all day, today, is the ability to connect to all things, your divine connectedness to all things. This connectedness on your planet comes from Gaia. You are connected to all things through Gaia. At this time, I call in all of your cords of energy that are connected to external systems, external energies, external beings who seek to take from you, who do not seek to nurture you, who do not seek to protect you, and firmly anchor them back down into the heart of Gaia, where they belong, where they have always belonged, where they were in the beginning and will again be now, so that these energies may come back to you. This power may flow back within you. These codes may be re-solidified within you. These sequences make their sense in every strand of your DNA, in every strand of your energy, in every piece of your body, in every fiber of your field, your aura, all that is you. I give you this energy now. I give back to you what has been taken. Take it with respect. Take it, knowing the sacred power that comes with it, knowing that in taking it, you pledge, you vow to be a sacred light on the world, that you will not misuse this light, that you will not use it for conquest, for ego, but for love, but for the spreading of light, the spreading of healing, a healing that needs so desperately to be done in your dimension on your planet. I trust that you will take it with this vow, and I trust that you will not break this vow. This is a sacred vow, and it comes with sacred consequences. My children, the time is now. Be blessed, be divine, be the light, be the torch that sparks the light within others. This is your mission. This is your calling. This is why you are with us tonight. It is no coincidence that those of you who are here are here. You were meant for this at this time. You were picked for this time to be in this energy, in this now, in this moment of this most blessed and auspicious day. Temple, please say the words to give the codes.
Bosatia sanaliato konoto shokoto. Bosalatia sako oto kochishikite. Naliaka haushuko. Bolariata kasatu shukumoto. Kolariata. Kosoto shakata nayat. Dupoko kolojo. Mosoto kolonia sakata. Kukina sanala a sotokopo. Akata ni tuku kala. Mosoto lojo poto konaya pana. Iasana kalahana niasata. Iakana sanani alata puko kono soto. Madala ya. Madala ya nasana posho koto koto ni ala tata ipototo sukano. Nale atati askatane te pukolo tuti askatano. Nale atakani pioskutotia nakata. Noskania tatsakatana namo. Nesiata posho kotono. Ata pokono satala shokono mianana. Iasatata. Iasatata. Iasa kotolo matiata ka ana shokoto ta yala tiata tono no to tiata tata 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 toto tiata toto tiata tiata toto 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 tiata toto tiata 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 toto tiata toto skota tiata tiata toto toto tiata 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 poto tia poto tiata patatia sukono la awoya shukua ha hana balota tia sukoto tia sukoto tiata tia skata tiata tata tata toto toto that's Naskatiata holopo shoto honotia sumania. Naliandena skotojukata. Masata hashaka. Iat toto shukoto tiana dieta 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 Muniaskatiashkatatia. Akatiana satata shukoto. Molanianos kutatiashkatia ta. Boskutu shono holo soto shono mahatia soto shono katiata posoto. Nalayata ta. Dotsu kototono, tatiaskatiata. Masala Hasanai Atasanai Puasai Asanai Amalayo Pasanai Pasayakato Oh, 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 oh. They're saying, they're saying, you have restored the circuit board and the divine template for what will follow, for the return of the sacred divine feminine. They just said it is done, so I don't.
I heard that too.
All right.
I'm hearing so much right now. There's so many collectives, so many divine feminine collectives that are just like crying in this right now. And they're so thankful to those of you who are receiving this back and who are bringing their energy back to the world right now. They want you to know that they are with you. You have their support, you have their protection, you have their power, you have their love. There's something very beautiful, a very beautiful seed they're saying that has been to something beautiful. And they're here to help to nurture that seed, to help it grow beautifully, to baby it, kind of to mother it, to be there to mother this energy that is growing within us and within the collective and on the planet right now. It's this very beautiful picture that they're showing me. Did I freeze or did you?
There.
Oh,
Okay.
that
I think you're gonna bring us back.
okay.
We have a black screen. Black screen is good. This is preparing. Okay, I see that we're back now.
Are we?
So we are back. It doesn't look like we have good reception on the YouTube end, but that's okay. Let me get the view. Let's get the gallery view going here. Why can't I get the gallery view going? Okay, in any case, you guys, we are back. I'm sure as things kind of catch up. Well, I guess there you go.
I do not know if I am on here, you guys. Okay, we lost Temple. I suppose the energies were just so high that we're just both getting booted right now from Zoom and the live stream. That was very intense for many of us, I'm sure. Hold on, let me see what's going on with her. Oh, thank you, Aurora. This is very crazy. Sometimes when we do energy work, one of us gets booted, the other one gets booted. It's not often that things happen like this, that it's just so intense that the internet shuts down and the computers stop working. That's how you know that we did some good work. Hold on, just let me check in with Temple. Let me see.